All right. I love it. We're changing diapers and we're raising money, baby. Yeah, let's go. Let's go. Hey, my name's Noah. I've got 3 kids. I've changed 1,000 diapers over the course of my real estate investing career. And what I've learned is you always have an extra pack in the trunk, right? You never know what's going to go down, right? So welcome back to the Lender Accelerator, Private Money Club Accelerator program. Tonight is borrower night. Borrower night. I love it. And we're on time. That's what I love about this. As a borrower, you're on time to the borrower training. That says a lot about you. Get ready. Let's go. I'm really excited about this, you guys. So like last week, we talked about a lot of stuff. And here's my advice to you. If you haven't already, go back and watch the training that I posted from the borrower side. I would recommend watching that 5 more times over the next couple of weeks, right? So the information, how I'm presenting it, you cannot master that enough. It's one thing to know it, to have it in your notes, but it's another thing just to be able to say it, conversate around it. It's really important. And keep in mind, like anything that I say, like how I communicate it, how I say it, that's 10 years of practicing how to say it to make sense to a lender. So this is really important, right? So we're going to go back, watch, and do. I'm going to ask you a few quick questions around the homework. And if you had success with this, if you're still working on it, that's cool. Like this is at your own pace. However, we're going to build upon each of these every week that we move forward. Okay. So real quick, the team, right? So we talked about the importance of having our team. As a borrower and as a lender, your borrower better have a good team surrounding them. So here's what we did. We said, hey, here's a couple different people. Let's just start with real estate agent, maybe a contractor, financial advisor. I think we said pick 3 in the list there and add them to your team. So what does this person do? Why did you choose them? How long have they been in the business? And why do other people find value in working with them? Right. And I had like an Excel spreadsheet that I posted in the Slack to help you fill out the questions and help you build out your team. That's there for organization, but it's also there for you to practice. You can go down the line and start saying it so that when you're in a meeting one-on-one with someone, you're smooth as butter, right? You got your team figured out, and that builds confidence. It builds credibility with your lenders and the people that are lending to you. This is why the team is so important. So if you're just tuning in, this is why it's so important. I'm going to teach you tonight how to have that one-on-one meeting, how to have a conversation with someone for 45 minutes sitting across from a table or on a Zoom webinar, and how to present your deal yourself and have them feel really good about lending you money. I'm going to teach you the framework to that. But what happens if we get all the way to the end of that meeting and someone says, hey, I love everything you're saying. Like, I'm ready to go. Do I make the check out to you? Quick question. How many deals have you done? How many have you done? I'm just curious. And if we haven't done a deal, what do we say? We've never done this before. What do we say?
I'm glad you asked.
Team.
Yeah, I'm glad you. Oh, I'm glad you asked.
I'm glad you asked. I've been a nurse for the past 25 years. My team, they are made up of a real estate agent, general contractor, financial advisor. They have in total 120 years of experience combined. So there's no question, no challenges that comes in this endeavor that we cannot encounter because we have a winning team.
Boom. All right, my man, crushing it. Let's go. Let's go. Great job. Yeah, you guys are getting it. We're only as good as the team that surrounds us. So start working on that. All right. And to this is something that never stops either. Like your team is going to evolve. Right now, my wife and I are flipping a house 2 hours away from us in North Carolina, Lake Lure, North Carolina, and we don't have a team up there. So as a lender, a concern is, well, who's going to be doing your project? So we're building out the team in a new city, right? Same exercise. So this is going to evolve and keep working on it. Awesome job. We're going to pick 3 more at the end of tonight to work on. Next up, we talked about just memorizing these 3 sentences here, these 3 paragraphs. And this is our elevator, and we consider each of these floors right? And so we're going up the floors, and this could take days, this could take hours, this could take months, right? My recommendation when I'm talking to someone, this is someone who doesn't know about private money lending. This is someone who's brand new, like this is our elevator pitch. If we meet someone and they're intrigued by what we do as real estate investors, how do we get them excited about potentially becoming a lender, right? And so I would master these. And then if we do a good job explaining each of these, hey, well, here's what we do. If you've always wanted to do real estate, I tell you what, you can learn how to do it. You can be involved. We pay a great rate of return. So what we do is we buy houses for 100, put 50 into them. Person's $150,000 loan is secured by an asset that's worth way more, just like a bank. We give each person mortgage, promissory note, list them on the insurance, right? We pay a great rate of return, secured by the asset. People love it. We can say that all at once, but if we can take our time with it, and when they're ready to hear more and they're asking us to hear more, that's when we're doing a great job of presenting this, right? Which is awesome. So, and then we also talked about our buying criteria. I'm curious if anyone has like narrowed down their numbers. Has anyone like figured out their neighborhood, figured out their that first paragraph right there? Anybody got a buying criteria that they want to share with the group?
I try to look at the cash on cash on the property. After repair value and everything, I want a cash on cash of at least minimum of 10% cash on cash.
Beautiful, beautiful. As a lender or as the borrower, because you're renting the properties, John?
As a borrower.
Cool. Awesome. So I would, great job. I love it. You have your numbers, Mr. and Mrs. Lender. See, what we do is we buy it. I would add to it a little bit too. Like we buy here, this price. And maybe if you are fixing them up, then maybe you put in the repair costs. So a person's total loan is secured by an asset that's worth this much. And what's great about this is the cash flow that's coming in as well. We target a cash on cash return of 10%, right? So keep in mind that the lender is going to say, okay, like if I lend this much, I want to make sure the house is worth this much, so that they feel that their money is secured by an asset that's worth more. So I would just maybe that's like the next sentence, the next line. Hey, I want to learn a little bit more about that. Well, why so many people love it? Because their loan is secured by an asset that's worth much more. And that's going to make people feel good, right? And keep everybody safe too, right? So awesome job on that. All right, cool. So
real quick, I don't know if this podcast was on Trusted last week. So let's say you have a 5 lender who want to lend you money, and then and everybody say they want to be on the first lien. So how will you address that?
if they're not
they all
going
be
to
on the first lien.
I'm gonna talk about that tonight.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, I'm actually gonna teach you like the best, coolest way to say it, and then they're gonna pick where they want to go. So you don't have to feel like, oh, I'm gonna put you in second. They're gonna tell you they want to be second, if that's what they want. So I'm gonna teach you some really cool stuff tonight. That's a great question. Yeah. So that's part of the process. Cool. Is that cool?
I just wanted to make a comment in regards to your slide.
Yeah.
The numbers don't make sense to me. Granted, today is my first day, so maybe I'm missing something.
Okay.
But where you have that example about the 100,000, the fixing of 50, and the 150 loan, that adds up to more than what the asset is worth, unless I missed something here.
No, so we buy the houses for 100. We'll put 50 into them.
That's 150.
So we're borrowing $150,000, and that $150,000 is secured by a house that's worth $225,000.
So, okay, because I was adding up the numbers.
Yeah. Don't add them all up.
Yeah. Okay.
What's great is it's worth $225,000. The loan's for $50,000. There's a $75,000 buffer right there.
Right now. Okay.
Yep. All right, cool. So this is the elevator pitch. Now, remember, the whole point of the elevator is to get one-on-one with the person. It's to have them reach out. It's to schedule a webinar. It's to meet at a coffee shop. It's to get on the phone. Okay. So whenever we're selling, and this is essentially what you're doing with the elevator pitch, you're selling the idea, generating curiosity. We're only selling the next step. So don't get like super eager or, try to do a 45-minute PowerPoint presentation at the soccer field or wherever you're talking to people at the real estate club. Like, let's set up a time to do it in a professional manner, right? To build a relationship, to really find out. So the only thing that we're focused on selling is the next step. All right. Got it. Say got it. So that's what we're going to be covering today. Right. So we talked about the elevator pitch. There's 4 things we have that keep you safe. We pay great rates of return. Let's go grab a coffee. Right. Would it at this little word right here? I'm teaching you communication stuff too. At the very least, right? I would write that down. At the very least, would it be worth learning more about? And subconsciously, it's hard for a person to say no to that, because at the very least, it's not, right? So, hey, at the very least, would it be worth emailing me after this webinar is over so that we can connect, right? If you're presenting to the private money club or whatever, right? So at the very least, would it be worth learning more about this opportunity? Their brain's going to say, yes, let's do it. Let's go grab a coffee, right? So we're going to set up a meeting, right? And that's what we're going to talk about today. And I'm excited. So here we go. Here we go. You ready? What's your baby's name? Eve? What's the baby's name?
Ava.
Ava.
Ava
All right.
Joy.
Ava, you ready, Ava? Here we go. Here we go. Again, so I show this slide every time I teach you guys, like real estate lending. This stuff is all risky. You guys get this. I'm going to share case studies. These case studies are my case studies. Real estate's unique. No piece of property is the same. No deal is the same. No deal will ever go the same. How a person's outcome is determined by a million different things. It's like the people you surround yourself with, your education, due diligence, so on and so forth. So again, this is a superpower. Picking up the phone and being able to secure funds from a private individual to real estate investors, that's a superpower. But with great power comes great responsibility. Our goal for this class is to have a 100% track record with our lenders. Got it? Say got it? Thumbs up. Got it. All right, cool. So this is what we're going to go through tonight. I'm going to teach you what I do, what I say. I've done this probably 1,000 times. And I've practiced this probably close to 10,000 times, right? Now, don't feel overwhelmed. Just know that I'm telling you this because it works. So these are steps to go through when explaining to a private money lender or potential private money lender how it all works, a little bit about you, a little bit about your deal, and what to do if you have a project ready to go. And what to do if you don't have a house yet. What do we say, right? I get this question all the time. People are always like, hey, what comes first, like the chicken or the egg?
Egg.
Right? It's the same thing with real estate. So don't get analysis paralysis where you're like, oh, I can't go look for deals because I don't have a lender yet. And don't say, oh, I can't go look for lenders because I don't have a deal yet. Ideally, we want to be looking for both at the same time, right? Don't stop looking and talking to one group because you don't have the other yet. This should be a simultaneous thing for us as real estate investors. Everybody that we meet could be a potential lender. Every house that we see could be a potential deal. So we're going to treat them as such, all right? So we're going to be marketing for both and having conversations around both so that when the time's right, boom, boom. Right? We're not waiting on one or the other. It's boom, boom. And I'll tell you, usually if we find great deals, the lenders are there. And usually when we have lenders lined up, it makes hunting for deals a whole lot more fun too. Right? So we're going to go through these steps. Now I posted in the Slack platform this outline. I posted about 2 hours ago. And so you can download this if you want to download it. I can email it to you guys if you want. Yep. The slide, the file is on Slack. 100%. And I got it zoomed in here so we can kind of break it down even better. So I'm going to go through this with you guys. And here's what I would say about this meeting. This meeting should be about maybe 45 minutes long. Nothing crazy. Maybe 45. Oh, is it showing as a JPEG on Slack?
It's okay, my friend.
I can save it as a P. I'll resend it as the PDF. Here's what I'll say about this meeting. This is about 45 minutes, give or take. It could be less, it could be more, right? But the idea here is that I'm gonna set aside an hour to have this conversation. So when we tell our lenders, hey, let's set aside some time and let them know, hey, it's probably about 45 minutes, an hour. We'll get to know each other, talk about the deals. I'll tell you all about it. Okay, great, right? Now, I would take the printout with you. So don't feel like if you're a newbie, if you're like, oh man, like I have this like checklist, like are they going to take me seriously? Absolutely. So two things you could do. Number one, you could print the outline, take it with you, or just rewrite on like your yellow pad the questions to ask. So maybe it looks a little bit more like spontaneous or whatever. I don't know, whatever you're comfortable with. But here's what I would say. If you're like, oh my gosh, is this person taking me serious with the checklist? You can say to Mr. and Mrs. Lender, if you're like me, you probably appreciate checklists, outlines, and systems, right? And of course, they're going to say yes. So excellent. I have a system checklist for a lot of different things within my real estate business, and this is one of them. So if you don't mind, I just have a few questions. I like to bring this with me to make sure that I don't miss anything when we're going over this together. Is that cool? And they're going to say, yeah, absolutely. That sounds awesome. So now you've taken the idea of, oh, I have this like worksheet. This is this professional, and you've turned it around and made it extra professional. All right. So just know, like, bring the worksheet with you, take good notes, but just explain why you're doing it. Hey, I like to have a system. I want to make sure I'm not missing anything. And I think that they'll really appreciate that, and you'll get further with them. All right. So here's the first step with this meeting. Number one, it's called the warm up, right? So this could be like building rapport, finding commonalities, finding things you have in common, things like of this nature, right? This is very normal in business, but it's important that you know who you're talking to on the other side of the phone or the webinar or the table, especially with Private Money Club. So Private Money Club is nationwide, right? We might even have some Canadians in here. I don't know, but it's nationwide. So it's important to know that not everybody is fast talking person from the South or New York or easygoing in California or whatever. Like, people, you got to remember who you're talking to and pick up the vibe, right? I'll give you an example of what I mean. So I'm from upstate New York, and then I went to school in Orlando, and then down in South Florida. So I'm kind of like, boom, I got, I don't have time to wait. Like, but I moved to South Carolina. That's where I live now. I live in Columbia, South Carolina. And everything here is like, oh, Shelly's not on the call tonight. Everything here is just super slow, right? Easy going. So when I first moved here, I had a hard time doing business because I was just going for the deal. I was just like, let's get down to it. Like, what's the deal? You want to do this or not? And I was struggling as a real estate agent, lending money, talking to sellers. And my wife said, hey, you're not doing the warm-up. I'm like, what's the warm-up? And she says, well, here in South Carolina, it's not like New York. It's not like Miami. You have to spend like 5 to 10 minutes talking about college football and the weather and all the stuff that you don't care about. And I was like, are you serious? She's like, you just got to spend some time getting to know people before you dive into business, right? And I like that. I told you guys earlier, I love finding out about people, what they do for a living and things like that. So it was my nature, but I was skipping that. And I have a very like engineer type of mind where like I like to have checklists. So in my mind, I have to make a mental note. Okay, when I pull up to the driveway, we're going to go inside and I got to spend 5 or 10 minutes just warming up. And then when the person's ready to talk business, we talk business, right? So just have that awareness, right? If you're talking to someone in Private Money Club and they're from South Carolina, just know that, hey, they're probably not going to just jump into things. So just plan for that. Have some awareness around it, right? The second bullet point is really, 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 really important. And it's confirmation. And what are they confirming? So when I have, and I'll send this to, I'll send you an example of this, of what this might look like. But if I talk to someone and they're interested in learning more about what we do, and I say, fantastic, let's set up a meeting. Okay, great. Hey, before our meeting, I'm going to email you something. What's your email? I'm going to get their email, right? I hope you guys are taking notes on this. We got the replay recording, but I'm going to send them information about me, or information about my deal, if I have a deal, or something just as simple as an example of a private money loan. I'm going to send them something to review, right? Super basic. If you're in the private money club, we have the perfect loan proposal, right? Which I'm going to talk to you about that week 4. So there's resources and different things that we can send them so that they can learn about us and learn about private money lending. Okay. Now, the reason why I send this email is I'm going to ask them at the meeting if they got it. Hey, did you receive my email with the perfect loan proposal, or the flyer about me, or the flyer about private money lending and how it works? Did you receive that? Yes. Okay, great. Did you get a chance to look over it? Yes. I like to ask that to confirm, because it helps me gauge their seriousness, right? So this is a subtle little thing that I do. And if I'm sending them something that's really detailed about myself or my company and my business model, like the perfect loan proposal, because that has a lot of information about me, then that tells me I don't have to spend too much time talking about myself if they've already read about me. If they haven't, they said, I got it, I haven't had the chance yet to read it. In my mind, it's not gonna make or break us. But now I know, okay, cool. I'm gonna spend a little bit more time talking about what's in there, right? Especially if I'm working with someone that's like, all right, just give it to me. I got 30 minutes. I got to get back to my job. I got a meeting with a client. Tell me what's going on. Hey, did you receive my email? Yep. Did you go through it? Yep. All right, great. Let's get down to it. So I like to confirm that they got it, right? So this is just a little step here. And over the course of the next couple of weeks, I'm going to give you things that you can send them to confirm with you prior to your meeting. All right. And then I'm going to cover their agenda. By the way, if any questions on anything, type it in the chat, unmute your mic, like feel free to interrupt me at any time. If it's something I can answer quick and I think the whole group would benefit from, I'll answer it. If it's something that's like specific to you, then I'll say, hey, hang out after the call. We can talk one-on-one. All right. The agenda. So I'm going to cover like basically what to expect. Again, this is a subconscious type of communication thing where if I tell them what we're going to do and then we go and do it, I'm building trust with them, right? I know it maybe seems silly, maybe it seems like, is this really important? Yes, right? After every single closing, every single time we have a successful wire, I always use the words, everything went as planned. Because I'm going to tell them what to expect, and then that's going to happen. And they're going to be like, Noah said everything was going to go this way, and it did. And then I remind them of that. So for the agenda, I'm going to go through what to expect during this meeting. And I'm going to build rapport with them. I'm going to build trust with them, right? Yep, absolutely. I will provide you with some hard money lenders info at the end, right? Intent of the meeting. So I would say, Mr. and Mrs. Lender, I'm really excited to share this opportunity with you. People absolutely love the idea of private money lending. We're only going to spend like maybe 30, 45 minutes together. And if you have any questions, I'll save some time at the end, right? So there's the length of the meeting. What to expect. I'm going to go a little bit about what we do, how we help people just like yourself, the types of deals that we do, types of loans that we do. And if I have a deal to share with you, I'll share that deal with you at the end as well, so on and so forth. So I'm just going to tell them what we're going to talk about. And then this is really important too. I'm going to say, hey, look, nothing is perfect, right? So I'm going to say, hey, look, private money lending is great. Nothing is perfect, right? And we'll talk about that, things that could go wrong or what could go sideways, right? Nothing is perfect. But what I am looking for is someone to build a long-term relationship with. This is not something I'm looking to do one time. You know, our goal is over the next 10 years to do dozens, if not more, deals together, right? Looking for a long-term business relationship. So here's why we say nothing is perfect. Because if you're like, I'm like this, if you tell me like everything's all rainbows and sunshine, I'm gonna start looking for like the holes to poke and why I don't want to do it. Right. But if someone says, hey, look, nothing's perfect, I'm gonna talk about things that could go wrong. And of course, right. But here's the deal. People love it. But we're not looking for the one-time thing. We're looking for folks that we want to do business with over and over and over again, long-term business relationship. Right. And that kind of just set, the people that are going to look for something and try to poke holes in it, it just kind of lets the guard down a little bit, releases the pressure valve a little bit, right? Because we're going to talk about that. I start with the disclaimer slide if you want to, right? Just like I do. Like there's a lot that could go wrong here, right? But we're going to talk about that. So, and then if they agree, they're like, yeah, you know what? I am too. All right, cool. We're going to move on. So this next part is going to be all about them, current investments, and like what their lending goals are. So if we don't know what they do for a living yet, hopefully we do at this point, I'm going to ask them, hey, tell me a little bit about yourself. What do you do for a living? If they've already told me, I would say, hey, I think this is such a cool career. Like, tell me a little bit more about that. You enjoy it? How long do you see yourself continuing to do that? And I'm going to let them talk. The idea with this section here is that I'm learning about who they are and what type of investor or lender they want to be. So that when I go and talk about how we structure loans or how we can structure loans or borrow money from them, our goals are aligned, right? So I'm going to ask them, hey, how is your money working for you now? How's it working for you now? This tells us a lot. And we're going to make a mental note right here. I might even make a little mental note on the paper. I'm going to write it down. Hey, how's your money working for you right now? If there's someone that says, well, I just sold a house, I'm not really sure what to do with it, I'm trying to find something to do. In our minds, where do they most likely have their money? What type of account? If they're like, I'm not sure what to do with it, I just sold a house, inherited a property, I'm not really sure what to do with it, type it in the chat box. I want to make sure you guys are still there. What type of account do they probably have their money sitting in? A regular bank account. Yep. Savings account. Yes. Beautiful. And yes. And so what type of percentage are they probably getting in a savings account? Yeah. 0.01, 0.5%, 1%. Yeah. So less than 1. Great. So we make a mental note of that. All right. And we're going to circle around to that. And you'll see why here in a minute. All right. And then I'm going to ask them like what their investment goals are. So I'll say, hey, tell me a little about your goals. What's more important to you? So we're giving them 2 options, right? There's so much power in asking multiple choice questions because then they're going to pick one. So I'll say, hey, let me tell you, what's more important to you? Passive income, like monthly cash flow, or just knowing that your money's out there working for you? Which one is more important to you? For a lot of people, it's the cash flow. For other people, it's just knowing that their money is working for them, right? So I would make another mental note, cash flow, or they just want to make sure it's out there working for them. All right, cool. And I'm going to write that down and make a mental note. And I'm going to circle back around here in a minute. And then I'm going to end this section by finding out what do they like about real estate. Mr. and Mrs. Lender, you probably wouldn't be here if you didn't like real estate or you weren't intrigued by real estate or love real estate. Tell me a little bit about like what you love about real estate. And that question right there lets me see what gets them excited. Because if the lender's like, I just love the before and afters, then I'm going to do so many cool before and after photos for that person. I'm going to make that experience that they've had lending me money so enjoyable for them. If I say, hey, what makes you love, what do you love about real estate? And if they're like engineer mind and they're like, hey, I'm so glad, I like real estate because I just love the idea of forcing value and it's all numbers, then I know how to talk to that person. I know how to communicate with them. It's going to be numbers, analytics, systems, right? Yeah. So John asked a great question. Hey, what's the difference between cash flow and make your money work for you? Same thing. Yeah, it's the same thing. But like, I'll give you an example. So if I have someone older and monthly cash flow is important to them so that they can pay their living expenses, or if I have someone who's much younger, I have some lenders, they're like late 20s, they're young, they don't have a whole lot, but they like the idea of making monthly income and making money with their money, but they want to see the money right away and they're using it. Then they like the monthly payment option, right? So it's just a matter of, are they receiving their money now for like living expenses? They like the monthly cash flow, or are they so busy and they're working a full-time job that they don't necessarily care about getting the mailbox money every month? They just want to know that it's earning good interest, right? So it's just the payment plan of how we're paying them back, right? Great. And I'm asking, hey, what do you love about real estate? And you'll see them light up, smile, start talking about why real estate's great, right? And we're going to make mental notes on that so that we can communicate and provide them and speak to them in a way that they want to keep working with us, right? Company overview. So this is, I worked with the lenders on this, or the lender training on Wednesday. If you haven't watched it yet, or you missed it, I'd recommend watching it, because you can take the company overview section here and apply what we taught on Wednesday, and with helping them establish credibility. So there's a little formula. I might say, hey, Mr. and Mrs. Lender, tell you a little bit about me. I don't want to go too in depth. If people want to learn more about you, they'll ask. They'll ask about it, right? Don't spend the next 30 minutes talking about everything about you, right? We just want to give them enough credibility that they feel comfortable working with us. And if they want to learn more about that experience we had, or that job we had, or more about our real estate, they'll ask. It's all good. And you can even say up front, hey, look, I'm not going to bore you. I could talk for days about my life story, business experiences, but here's the deal. Over the last 10 years, I've been doing this, and what I've learned is that it's really important to blah, 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 blah. There's a formula for it, right? But we're going to talk a little bit about our experiences with that credibility statement, right? And then if you do have real estate experience, share it. If you do have an educational background, share it. If you have a background in something else, share it. Hey, for the last 10 years, I've been a firefighter. I've been saving lives, and now I'm ready to work on a different type of legacy. Share that. I think that's really powerful. We talked a lot about this last Wednesday. Go back and watch that video. You'll get a lot out of it, helping you build your company overview. But then if you have a track record, share it. And even if you've done one deal, hey, so far we've done one deal, and it was 100% track record, right? Laugh it off. Mr. and Mrs. Lender, we've done 3 deals. They've all been fantastic. Everything went as planned, right? We're excited to do our 4th. It's okay to start small, right? But if you have a track record and it's successful, share it. And then if there's anything that gives you a competitive advantage, share that. Maybe you're a real estate agent, maybe you're a mortgage broker, maybe you're a notary, maybe you're, you work at a bank, whatever that might be for you, whatever your competitive advantage is, share it. And then our business model and buying criteria. We talked about this last week, and this is where this becomes really important. Okay. So the types of properties that you buy and the areas that you're buying in. So Mr. and Mrs. Lender, see, what we do is we buy single family houses in good school districts in the 29212 zip code, right? We put 100, we buy them for 100, we put 50 into them, and that $150,000 asset or loan is worth a house that we're going to make worth $225,000. Right. So that's the whole buying criteria, like picking your area, having that game plan lined out. So when you're talking to someone, it's like, okay, this makes sense to me, right? You could teach them things like how you calculate your offers. Lots of times lenders and people in real estate are fascinated by how we found our deals. The lots of times people who aren't in real estate, the only way that they know how to buy a house is either for sale by owner or to go with a real estate agent and go look at what's on the MLS. So if there is a specific strategy or niche that you target, share that with them, right? Educate them, make them feel good that you're buying good deals, because the better the deal is for us, the borrower, the safer it is for the lender. So I might say something like, if this was me at the bottom, I'd say, Mr. and Mrs. Lender, we focus on buying houses and that are in good school districts, at least 3 bedrooms and 2 baths, in the 29212 zip code. We buy, we'll be all in 150. The house will be worth 225. And we have this very specific buying criteria that keeps, and this is important. That last bullet point is so important. We have a very specific buying criteria. This keeps us safe and keeps your money safe. And this is something we're going to circle back around to, right? I can't stress that enough. We have a very specific buying criteria that keeps us safe and keeps your money safe, keeps you safe. Okay. We're going to circle back around to that. But I'm telling you, that's so huge, because at the end of this meeting, they're going to be asking some questions. And because we already talked about that up front, they're going to feel really good about working with us. All right. So hang in there. All right. All right. Then we're going to get into the money. So I'll say, so here, whenever I'm explaining interest rates, this is a good tip. And if you're on the Money Club Monday call with Steven today, he took my advice and he explained it this way too. Whenever I'm explaining interest rates to someone who's new to this, I'll always use the examples between 8 and 12%. Okay, 8 and 12%. And I do that for a couple of different reasons. Number one, as a borrower, like, I like the idea of throwing out 8%. So like, were you guys on the call today? Who's on the, put in the chat box if you were on the call with Bo. Bo was presenting. Bo Bernstein was presenting today at Money Club Monday. And this young man was like, and he had a great deal, solid deal. If I was a lender, if you're a lender right now and you've got 125 grand burning a hole in your pocket, I would email that young man about the deal that he presented, because that deal made sense. And here he is like, I'm going to do 16%. I'm like, 16%? This is a great deal. What are you doing? Right. But he's trying to figure it out. He's trying to attract people to come do business with him. Nothing wrong with that. 16%, solid. All right, David. Yeah, you're lending to him, right? Cool. Well, now I know when you're like, hey, I'm going to 10x my money. Well, yeah, keep lending to him at 16%. You'll be all right. You guys will be doing good. But I always like to say 8 to 12. I like to throw the 8 out there because it helps people realize that I do pay 8% and other people out there do pay that low rate. So it's kind of like framing their mind of like, okay, 8%, other people would do that. Not really where I want to be. But then I throw in the 12 because it's sexy. It's double digits. I know, it's beautiful. Congrats, guys. Seriously. Yeah. Good for it's win-win all the way around. But I'm gonna throw in the 12 because it's double digits. It's way more than they're getting anywhere else. And it's easy to explain. When we explain this using 12%, it's so easy to explain because there's 12 months in a year. So how I do my loans, and I'm using examples of like short-term stuff here, wholesale deals or fix and flips. What we do, Mr. and Mrs. Lender, we pay a 12% interest only annualized interest loan. We set this up on a 12-month term, right? And how it works is if we're paying 12% and we go for the full year, you would earn a 12% return on your money. If we sell that house or refinance in 6 months, then you would earn 6%. And then we go look for another deal to put your money right back to work, right? So we explain that to them, but I think using the 12 months is very easy for people to be like, okay, that's how that works. That makes sense. So then what I'm going to ask that, but here's the thing. If I'm talking to someone And this goes back to the question up here, right? Hey, how's your money working for you now? Right? Current investments and lending goals, second bullet point. How is their money working? How's your money working for you now? If someone says, I have no idea what to do with it, it's sitting in a savings account. I know I'm smart enough to know that I'm losing to inflation. I got to figure something out. I'm not going to mental note if they're earning, like you guys said, less than 1%. I'm not going to go and give them 16%. If they don't know any other way to do that, I might start that person off at 10 or even 8. And they're going to be ecstatic because they're earning less than 1% right now. Right. So we're taking a mental note here on how savvy they are with their finances, the options that they currently are looking at, and we're going to do better. Now, if we're working with someone, if we're talking to David and Dorothy, and they're like, I'm like, hey, how's your money doing for you now? And David's like, well, great. I got one private money loan out at 16%. I'm doing this, that, and the other. I know in my mind, okay, I'm going to have to come up here, but I'm making the mental note prior to having this conversation. So that when I start talking about, hey, what do I pay? I know where to start at. And I know how the conversation is going to have to go. Like for me, I'm like, oh my gosh, like, if I'm brand new, I'd be like, all right, if I'm going to work with Dave, I'm probably going to have to pay 15, 16%. If I'm experienced and I've done 100 deals, I'm going to say, hey, you know what? If I'm going to work with Dave and Dorothy, I got to lean on my track record and say, hey, I don't pay 16% because I've done this successfully 100 times or whatever, right? So I kind of know how to navigate that conversation to start the negotiations, right? And to start figuring it out. There's no right or wrong.
Let's rock, Noah.
You ready? All right, 8%. You guys heard it. Sign them up.
No, rock solid, easy to work with, very flexible.
And yeah, I love it. You're speaking my language, my love language. All right, so here's another thing too. Earlier, we asked them what their investment goals were, right? Is it cash flow or just knowing that your money works for you? So then when we get down here and start talking about structuring, I know that if someone's like, hey, I want to receive that monthly interest rate, I'd love to have the cash flow to help supplement my income or help my retirement. Cool. Hey, great news. That's exactly how we do it. We can absolutely do it that way for you. We can do monthly interest, quarterly, however you want to do it, right? To help you with that goal. And they're gonna be like, oh my gosh, this is fantastic, right? If someone's like, hey, I have a lot of lenders that don't like the monthly payment because they got so much going on, or they're traveling around the world, or or they're lending with their retirement account, so they'd rather just like get one lump sum at the end of interest. And that's cool too. So if that was the case, let's say this is how we do it. We pay at the end when we refinance or sell. So we're helping them hit their goals, right, guys? This is really important here: documents and protection, right? So this is, hey, you know what's great? This is where we can just be like, hey, guess what? You get to be the bank. You're your own banker. So our lenders are just like their own bank. They get the same exact documents that a bank would want, right? We're comparing them to a bank. And if they've ever gotten them, a lot of people have gotten a mortgage before, right? Especially if they're lending money. There's a very good chance that they went out and have bought their own property before. So you could even say this and frame it. You could even say, hey, do you own your own home? Yep. Cool. You probably owned a couple houses? Yep. All right, cool. So everything that you signed when you bought your house, we're going to do the same thing. Just like a bank, just like a bank. Those little words are fantastic. So we provide you with a promissory note, a mortgage or deed of trust. We list you on the insurance as the lost payee. We provide personal guarantees, just like a bank would want, right? And they're like, okay, cool. And we're going to talk a little bit about, like, if they have questions about how this is drawn up, or do I need an attorney or things like that, we can have those conversations right then and there. right? We can explain to them the process, and we call this the closing process. So how I do this is I would say, Mr. and Mrs. Lender, we provide you with a promissory note, mortgage, or deed of trust, whatever we use in our state. List you on the insurance as the lost payee, provide personal guarantee. And this is how it works. Nothing is done by us, right? So at this point, we've talked interest rates. They're probably really excited to want to get started and do. So here's the thing, like, you never, ever wire money to me personally. Everything goes through our title company or through our attorney, our closing attorney, right? And that should make them feel real good, right? Because that's how it should be. So all of the documents, you have a couple different options, but what we do, and I'm speaking to the borrowers here, you can do what I do too. That's why it's important to have these people lined up, know who you're going to work with to do your real estate closings. I work with a company called Bell Carrington here in Columbia, South Carolina. They're awesome, top rated. They have great customer service. They know what they're doing. And if you like, I'll have them draw up all of the documents for you. And if you use my attorney and my team, I actually will cover the costs, so you don't have to pay anything. And if you want to take this to your attorney to review, you're more than welcome to, but I'll cover the costs if we just keep it in-house and keep it simple. And 9 times out of 10, they'll be like, yeah, that sounds awesome, right? Especially if you're lending to a different state, you know, your attorney's in your state. So they're going to, put in a little extra work to make sure everything's done how it should be in the state that you're lending, so like, make it easy for your lender to say yes. Now, I have had lenders that are like, well, I'd like for my lender to write up the promissory note. And I'd be like, all right, cool, that's fine. You can pay for that part of it. And if they kind of hem and haw about that, there's been times where I've said, hey, you know what? I'll split it with you. If your attorney is going to charge you $300 and mine was going to do it for $200, I'll split it with you, and we'll each pay $150. Does that sound good? It's, I don't want to step over dollars to pick up nickels, but I also want my lender to feel comfortable, right? But I like to, if I'm borrowing money, I like to use my people that I work with regularly, because it's just easy to communicate and they know us, right? So just keep that in mind. And so here's the deal, Mr. and Mrs. Lender. What's going to happen is, if everything goes good and you're ready to fund one of our next projects, so on and so forth, I'm going to create an email and I'm going to CC you and my attorney. I'm going to introduce you. I'll tell them what the terms of the loan is, and they can start drafting everything up. And then you'll have time to review it prior to closing. So our goal is to get this out 5 days prior to you wiring funds, so that you can review it beforehand to make sure everything is exactly how you want it. Awesome. And then that's what we'll do, right? Next week, I'm actually going to show you emails that I send to my attorney, like templates, to get everybody on the same page and working on this stuff right away, making people feel good. So I'm gonna teach you how to communicate via email to get all of this rocking and rolling, right? So we kind of explained the closing process to them. No funds are ever wired to us, right? Fun exercise, because if you get really good at this, what's going to happen at this point, the potential lender is going to say, okay, great. So like, do I make the check out to you? Is this how this works? Do I make the check out to you? So we're just going to I'm going to make sure everybody's here, paying attention, staying loose. Okay. So everyone stick up your hands like this. All right. So when someone says, hey, do I make the check out to you? What you're going to do is you're going to go like this. You're going to go, whoa, no. So everybody go, no. Whoa, no. Right? We don't want your money. Right? Everything is going to go to the title company or to the attorney, whoever's conducting the closing. All right. And people are going to feel really good about that. But if you have the opportunity to go, no, whoa, slow down. That's not how this works. You're doing a great job. All right. Commitment. So this is important. This is important. Why do you think it's important for us to ask how committed they are and ask for their commitment? There's no room for wishy-washy here, but I'd like to hear it from you guys. Why do you think it's so important? Why is commitment important? You can unmute or type it in the meeting chat.
Yes, Cherie, I'll speak up. Why commitment is important is definitely you're relying on that individual to get a property that you probably already have a short period of time anyways, but knowing that they're going to go forward, and that way you can perform your duties as you've mentioned, and then they can feel comfortable that you're doing what you're told. It's just kind of a win-win on both ends. They're going to both have your commitment from them so that you know going forward you're not spinning your wheels picking up a property that you can't possibly pay for now.
Great. Yeah, beautiful. Great job. 2 claps. All right. What else? Anybody else? Why is commitment so important? Anything else you want to add to that? Here's what I would add to that. Great job, Shri. Great job. I would add to this, and how I would explain this to the lender is, Mr. and Mrs. Lender, commitment from you is very important. And here's why. It has nothing to do with me. But who is this ultimately affecting? If we don't get the money to buy the house, who's got the U-Haul all packed up in the driveway ready to go? Who's already making plans with the money that we're about to give them? Who's the seller? Right? So the sellers of these properties, the people that are selling us the property, keep in mind, most of the time when we're buying houses, cash as is, right? If you come across a pre-foreclosure or foreclosure property, you know, you're helping that person save their credit. There might be only a few days or weeks before the house gets auctioned or something, you know, right? So like, there's been so many times where people have been counting on our funds to go start new, to buy the next house, or to move cross country for the job transfer or what have you, right? So this is really important for our sellers. So how I would position that, I'd say, hey, look, Mr. and Mrs. Lender, commitment is extremely important, and it has nothing to do with us. It has everything to do with the sellers that we are helping. Many of them, you know, are depending upon us to buy their house and have plans that, you know, really impact their life. So here's the deal. We can't have someone 48 hours before closing, a week before closing, you know, get cold feet or go buy a boat or something like that with their money, as opposed to investing it, right? Do you see why that's so important? Not for us, but for the people that are depending on the sale of the property. For us, we can go out and we can find someone and set it all up again. It might take another couple of weeks, but to the seller, they're the ones that are really being affected here, right? So we put it on them to understand the importance of this, not for us, but for the seller. Does that make sense? Right? Because I mean, ultimately we can help them, we can have a backup plan, but at the end of the day, like, they're the ones that are going to be really hurting, right? And people will get that. They understand that, right? So now I'm going to teach you, I'm going to ask them where they want, how much they want to lend. And if they want to lend first position, second position, or if they want to do the entire amount. And I'm going to teach this to you. This is really cool. I'm going to grab my flip chart here. This is what you were talking about here, John. Hey, how do you know if someone, how do you explain first position, second position, all of that? So, all right. All right. Now, this is why I was asking you guys to figure out like your buying criteria, like your numbers. Okay. You know, lots of times I'll ask you to do something like a homework or like, hey, figure out your neighborhood, get your numbers down. And you might be like, is this really important? It's like, you know, like the Karate Kid. The Karate Kid was always waxing the cars and painting the fence. And he's like, Mr. Miyagi, what the hell does this have to do with karate? And then he's getting blisters and about to quit. And then he got in a fight and he started doing the moves and he was working on the muscles or whatever. And it had everything to do with karate. So sometimes when I give you these assignments, hey, pick your neighborhood and figure out your numbers. It's just like a wax on, wax off moment because I'm setting you up for like the next step. And this is it. So here's what's cool. So I'm gonna get Mr. and Mrs. Leonard, I'm gonna explain to you our business model, our very specific buying criteria. See, what we do is we buy houses for 100. We put 50 into them. And then a person's $150,000 loan is secured by an asset that's worth way more, right? 225 or 250, whatever we're using.
Noah, are you writing on the poster chart? We can't see anything.
Can you see me?
Does everyone else?
Can you stop sharing the PowerPoint?
Oh, thank you. How about that? You can see me now, right? Yeah. Okay, cool. Thanks, guys. All right, so here's the deal. Mr. and Mrs. Lender. See, we buy 100, put 50 into it, $150,000 loan. So what's cool is we have 3 different options that we can that our lenders like, right? And you just tell me where you want to start. 3 different options. Most people, they see that we're paying them 10, 12%, 16%, whatever you decide, interest on their money. So they want to put as much of it to work as possible. So most people, they'll start out right here, the number 1 spot, and they'll fund the entire thing, right? So if we do a good job of explaining private money lending and the value and all that stuff, people should be like jumping over one another to put as much money to work as possible, as much as they can, right? So that's option number 1. We have other people who, for whatever reason, are only comfortable lending for the purchase price. So that might be number 2. Number 2 option, right? These are options. So they might lend 100 grand because maybe that's all they have. For whatever reason, that's where they're comfortable and that's where they start. And they love it, right? And we love them, right? So that's option number 2. And then Mr. and Mrs. Lender, we do have a third option here. And then we have some people, for whatever reason, maybe that's just where they want to start. Maybe that's all that they have, and they are in their retirement account, and that's all that they can do right now. And they'll lend the amount for the repairs, which is 50,000, give or take, right? So we have 3, but we have 3 options here. Mr. and Mrs. Lender, where do you see yourself starting? With the 150, the 100, or the 50,000? Where do you want to start? So type in the chat box where you would start, right? And just play around with it. I'm not holding you to it, but just play around with it. Hey, I'm down for number 1, number 2, number 3. Where would you start? Type it in the chat. Yeah, Mr. and Mrs. Lender, we got 3 options. Number 1, people see how much we're paying them and they want to put as much money to work as possible. So they'll fund the whole deal, 150. Some people, for whatever reason, maybe that's all they have. Maybe they feel more comfortable with this, but they'll do the 100. And then some folks, same thing. They'll fund the 50 grand. They'll fund the renovation costs. So Mr. and Mrs. Lender, where do you see yourself starting, right? Now I got a lot of different answers. Number 1, number 2, number 3. Hey, guess which one's the right one? They're all right.
All right, yeah.
They're all right. We'll take it all. All right, cool. So I'll go through some examples, like I'll tell you what to say after each one. So if someone says number 1, hey, fantastic, great, smart choice. Now, no matter what they say, 1, 2, or 3, we're going to follow up with this question. This is the $1 million question, right? Mr. and Mrs. Lender, here's what's cool. You want to do number 1? All right, great. How many loans at the same time are you comfortable doing? Right now, so participate with me. You can talk in the mic or just type it in the chat. How many are you comfortable doing at the same time? We're just role playing here. How many do you want to do? All right, cool. You want to do 150? Great. How many are you comfortable doing simultaneously? Right? She says 3. She says 1. All right, cool. So if someone says 2 or 3, now how much money do we know that they have to put to work? 300 grand, 400 grand, you know. Here's what's great about that question. Hey, how much money, how many times do you see yourself doing this like simultaneously? Just one, or are you comfortable doing 2 or 3? For the longest time, I have this one lender, you guys, and she lends 200, 300 grand all the time. And I never asked her this question. And my wife a few years ago was like, hey, you should ask so-and-so if she wants to fund the deal. I was like, well, we already have a deal out with her. She goes, so what? Just ask her. Maybe she's got more. I was like, dang, I never thought about that. So I sent her an email. I said, hey, we got another project. Do you want to fund this one too? She said, yeah. I'm like, oh my God, this whole time, I'm like, you know, I would much rather work with 2 or 3 people that can fund all my deals than 10 different people that I got to keep track of everything, right? So it's great to have this question because now you know what their comfort level is and how much they're working with, right? All right, great. So this person here, if they say, hey, I'm comfortable with the 100, I say, fantastic. That's awesome. So we'll put you, Mr. and Mrs. Linder, in what's called the first position. We'll put you in that first position. There's a lot of benefits to being in first position. If something were to go sideways, you know, and the house was sold at auction, you would get paid first, right? And that should make you feel pretty good. All right, cool. That's how that works. But just so you know, Mr. and Mrs. Lender, we will also be having a second lien holder on the property. A second position, right? What that means is that there's going to be a total amount of debt of 150, but you're going to be in the first position. But remember, the house is going to be worth 225. So now your 100 grand is secured by an asset that's worth 225,000, but the total loans on the property will be 150, but you still got about $75,000 in equity. Are you cool with that? Yep. All right, great. So if you're lending in first position, it's important to ask these questions as well. Like, and it's, as a borrower, it's important to explain, hey, how are you paying for the other part? Tell the person, how are you doing that? And so like, if you're lending money and you're lending the second, hey, how did you do the first? How did you buy it? Right? There's a lot of loans on Private Money Club right now where it's like, hey, this is just the rehab costs that we're doing to the property. You've probably seen people doing that. But no one ever asks what this number is. We should be asking what this number is and what these terms are as well, and what this looks like. So that if we are going to lend the repair costs, we know that the total amount is much less than what the house is worth, because you don't want to get caught in a situation where there was a first, you're the second, and the house is worth 160. Because if it goes into foreclosure for some crazy reason, you're probably not going to get your entire amount of money back, right? Now, if the person's lending if someone says, hey, great, I'm going to do number 3, still ask the question, because sometimes people want to lend here because they just want to test it out. And they're like, well, it's not all my money. It's the smallest amount. Let me just see how he does. And I've got people that have tested us, and you will too. And they're going to say, hey, you know what? I'm cool doing second. I'm only going to do 50. It's a safe bet because you got lots of equity in there. Let's see how you do, right? So there's a lot of people that I have lending me money that are second positions originally when they first started working with us, that are now first and they're heavy hitters. Like they're just testing us out, or we've been working with them for 9 years and now they're lending in first position. So don't sleep on that, but ask them the same question. How many are you comfortable doing at the same time? They might say 4. You never know, right? So just ask this. But the idea here is we're going to have them pick what they want to do. Right? Is that cool? And this is great. Also, if like you're in, you know, in South Carolina, like, you know, they don't like to talk about money, a lot of people, you know, so this is a great way to talk about money but allowing them to pick. You're not being, you're not like, hey, how much you got? Like, how much you want to put to work? It's like, let's do the deal. No, it's not like, it's not like that. They just get to pick where they want to start, and then we ask them how many are you comfortable doing at the same time. And I think you'll be surprised what people tell you, right? So that's what I
Noah,
would
have
have
a
them do.
question. Do you write that down when you're in the meeting with them, like physically write it on the paper? So they can
Absolutely.
see it? Okay,
Absolutely.
that's what I
Yep.
figured.
Yeah, it's such a good visual, it's such a good visual. I'm gonna share this too, because you're gonna get this question. And I think I have this question on here. Let me go back to sharing the slide. Confirm the amount available. That's what we just did there. And then we tell them about the next steps. So the next steps might be, there's two different scenarios that are probably going to play out with next steps. If they're interested, right? Mr. and Mrs. Lender, do you see, commitment? Are you in? Yep, I'm in. I like this idea. Cool. There's 3 different ways people can start. 1, 2, 3. Where do you see yourself? How many are you confident doing with me simultaneously? 8 of them. All right, great, cool. That's awesome. Great news. So they got 2 options. Great news. I've got a property lined up, right? Let's say you have a house and you're looking for funding. Great news. I got a property. It's already lined up. We're ready to go. Here's the details and so on and so forth. I'm gonna teach you how to put this stuff together over the next couple of weeks, like a packet that talks about your project and your numbers and all that. Hey, great news. Got a property right here. Here's the closing date. You can take a look at it. I'll follow up with you tomorrow. And if everything's a green light and you want to do it, I'll CC you on an email to my attorney and we can start drawing up the paperwork. Awesome. So that's option 1. If you have a deal. If you don't have a deal yet, you don't have a house yet, but you're trying to build up your private money lender list, this is where it goes back to our buying criteria. So I would say, Mr. and Mrs. Lender, great news. I can't wait to work with you. I don't have a project right now, this instant, that needs funding. However, you'll be the first to know, or whatever, right? However, I'm gonna let you know as soon as one comes across our table. So here's the deal. And patience is a virtue. And the lender, once they see the opportunity and they see the interest that they can be making, and they're sold, right? It's now their idea to do this, and they're in. It's their idea. They're gonna want to go right away to put their money to work. They're gonna be excited to do this. If we don't have a deal yet, it's okay. And this is what I would say to them. Hey, Mr. and Mrs. Lender, we don't have a project yet. I'm making offers, and hopefully this is a true statement. If it's not true, don't say it. I'm making X number of offers a week. I just put out marketing. I'm anticipating an offer coming hopefully any day now. But here's the deal. We have a very specific buying criteria, right? We talked about it right here at the end of our business model. So I would say, Mr. and Mrs. Lender, we don't just buy houses to buy houses. You just told me you have 400 grand you want to put to work. Great. That doesn't mean we just go out and we buy any house. We buy houses that meet our very strict buying criteria. We buy, and they've already heard what the criteria is. We buy houses, 3-bedroom, 2-bath, this zip code, buy for 100, put 50 into them. It's worth 225. That's our box. So we're not going to force it, right? And we do that to protect us, and we do that to protect you. We are not motivated buyers. We're going to find the right deal for your money, right? So play back the tape a little bit on that and kind of practice saying that and having that conversation, because when you explain this, they're going to be like, this sounds awesome. But the last thing we want them to do is go lend to somebody else or forget about it and go buy the boat or just, whatever, right? Blow their money or do something or lock it up in an annuity for 5 years or something like that, right? So now here's the thing though. if we don't have a deal and it's been a week or two, we're going to communicate with them. Hey, Mr. and Mrs. Lender, just touching base with you. Want to let you know we made 25 offers last week and none of them met our criteria. You know, we have a very strict buying criteria, just touching base with you. As a reminder, we do that to protect you and protect us, but we're actively looking for deals that make sense, right? And they should appreciate that, you guys, right? Instead of saying, oh yeah, wire me the money, just put it in my bank account, we can let it sit here until I find something. Like, there's people out there that are doing that, and it's criminal, right? So just, hey, be patient. I'm gonna find the right project for you. Hang tight. I got you. All right, cool. Right. And we're gonna communicate that.
Noah,
Yes.
in regards to the 1 and 2 position, obviously you have different interest rates for both, or do you give them the same interest rate?
Hey, that's great. Hey, how's your money working for you now, Esperanza?
So.
Oh, so all right, great.
I'm looking for opportunities to take it out of the bank and do something useful with it.
Awesome. Yeah, no, that's great. It's 8%.
8% per both. Now, you never have a situation where lender 1 or lender 2 have different time frames. Like, let's say it's for one is 6 months and the other one is 9 or 10. You always
could.
have the same.
I don't, but you could absolutely. And here's the thing too, like, everything's negotiable and everything can be structured how you and the borrower or lender agree upon. I actually, if someone's going to give me, like the last loan that I did, we borrowed $250. This person is used to paying or used to lending like around the 200 mark. So she's lending an extra $50,000 on her money. And usually we pay her 9%. And because we were doing an extra 50, she said, hey, since it's more money, can you do 10%? And we said yes. So that's one of my friend John Steingraber. You guys have you seen this TV show 24-Hour Flip on A&E? Have you seen that one yet?
Yes.
Yeah, so that's like one of my best friends, John Steingraber. He taught me about this everything I learned about private money, I learned from him, right? So if you go on Saturday mornings at 12 on A&E and you watch 24-Hour Flip with John and Michelle, that's my coach, right? John taught me a lot about private money. So that's legit show, by the way. Like, it's not that they flip a house in 24 hours. They take 2 days and it's 12 hours each day. And it's not from the time they bought it to the time they sold it, but from the time that the dumpster gets dropped in the driveway. He's got 75 crew members working there, and he's so organized and systematized that they end up flipping the house, hopefully in a total of 24 working hours, which is kind of cool. But anyways.
Right. That must require a lot of preparation.
Yeah. So yeah, absolutely. So he's probably spending 3 weeks preparing, but on the site, swinging the hammer and the paintbrush is 24 hours. But John taught me, he said, hey, look, how he does it, he says, hey, if someone's going to give me all the funds, then I'm going to then I'll pay them a little bit more. But what's cool, you guys, as you build out history and credibility and track record, he actually has this system. I always thought it was like this. Second position is riskier. So second position gets more. And then and he was talking to me and he's like, well, why are you rewarding people for doing less? He's like, if I know that someone can do more, I'm going to tempt them to do more, but I'm going to give them a higher interest rate. He's like, I don't think the person that's got a little skin in the game should be making the higher percentage. I was like, gosh, I never thought about it like that, because I've always been taught first position safer, so you pay a lower interest rate, and second position higher interest rate because it's second position. So I thought that was kind of interesting. So if you're talking to someone, you guys, and they're like, hey, I could probably do the 150. Great. How many times could you see yourself doing 150? Twice. Okay, cool. So where do you see yourself starting? You know what? I could do that, but I think I want to start out with the 100. Okay, great. 100 is 8%. But if you do the whole amount, I'll give you 12. Now I don't have to go find someone else and draw up 2 sets of paperwork and things like that, right? So that was just a kind of like a different way to look at it, but you can do that however you want to do it. And how he had like this rewards program. So if you're, what's going to happen is everyone's going to start telling people about you. If you're the borrower, right? You're gonna say, hey, how's the market? And how you doing in the market? I'm not in the market. I'm private money lending to Cherie. Oh, okay, cool. Well, what's that like? Well, she's paying me 10% on my money and secured by the asset. It's awesome. I should refer you. This is gonna happen. And they're gonna say, oh, wow, okay, cool. So that guy's gonna call up Cherie, and he's gonna be like, hey, I'm looking to get that 10%. And she's like, oh, that's great. That person's been working with me for 2 years though. We can get you to 10, but you're brand new. So I'm going to start you out at 8. And then every deal that we do, we'll go up 0.5% until we hit that. We cap out at 10. Sound good? Okay. So there's all different kinds of ways that you can do it, that it doesn't have to be the status quo, right? But again, it's all about working together, right?
Well, and then there's, for example, when you were talking about the 50K for fixing, obviously, I mean, it's going to take you a little bit longer to sell it. So to get the 250 and all of that, but if you have the money already for the 50K sooner rather than later, you can always pay them back sooner.
You could totally do that. That's not a bad idea. That's a very good, that's a cool idea. But you got to think, as long as you're not depending upon selling that deal to get those funds.
Right, exactly.
Right. But if you had money coming in from a different place or another deal closing or something like that, and that made sense, or maybe you had cash, you just, didn't want to use all of it or whatever until you figure something out. That's a great idea. So that's cool. I like that.
Hey, Noah, this is David. Can I ask a quick question?
Yes, please, guys. We're in question mode right now, and then we're gonna give you some assignments, and then we'll be good.
Love it, love it. So my question is around kind of first lien, second lien, et cetera. And if someone's coming in full cash on the deal, first lien, hey, let's not get into any other possibilities. We're going full in. It's the first lien opportunity that actually is putting their cash on the line, right? So the question comes down to, does that deserve a little bit higher interest consideration from the borrower? I think it's important to have this conversation.
I love that idea. And I was telling you guys earlier, if someone's going to do all of it, that's less headache for me. Let's reward that person for doing that. Right. And and I'll tell you what, man, David, if you had that conversation with someone and you said exactly what you just said to me, you just pulled some conscious communication on me. And I'm like, gosh, you know what? I agree with you. That makes sense. Right. So it's like, what are you bringing to the table? I'm bringing all the funds.
Right.
So don't you think it's worth it for me to make a little bit more? If you were me, right? I'm gonna do a little Jamie Miller on you, right? If you were me and you were bringing all the money to the table and making your life extra easy, you'd want to take great care of me, right? Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay. Now you know where I'm coming from. I think it's more than fair to pay me 27% or whatever you guys are going to ask for.
Dorothy's agreeing with you.
She agrees. Yes. All right. Great. Yeah.
We'll do on that deal, Noah.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, totally. I think so. But again, what's cool is what if you were in second position? You could have that same conversation and say, hey, if you were me and you were in the second position, which is a little bit of a riskier spot, you'd probably want to have a little higher interest rate than the normal. Would you agree with me on that? Yeah, I would agree with you. If I were you, I'd probably want that too. All right, great. Now you know where I'm coming from. It's going to be 15%. Okay, cool. Right.
Well, that would actually justify giving equal, because the first one is the one that's putting most of the money. So, I mean, to me, that justifies paying the equal interest to both, because yes, you are in a riskier position, but you're also owing less money. So,
Isn't this great?
Yep.
Can you walk into Wells Fargo and have these types of conversations, or or even a hard money lender for that matter, right? Like the negotiation part isn't necessarily an option or going to be there, right? So cool.
I think the experience too comes in on that one, like you were saying. My money's in the bank right now. I ain't got that much money, and I'm gonna put what I have in there, and you're telling me 8%, and I'm like jumping off of the couch on that. So I'm not thinking that I'm getting, hustled or anything at 8%. Because I don't even know that the 16 or the 12% is even on the table. But then I'm also getting that experience too as a new lender, never done this before. And, I feel like I'm working with somebody that I trust and like.
100%. And the idea isn't to hustle someone or shortchange them. At the end of the day, we are helping them make much, much more, right? But my wife would kill me if I just gave away the farm every deal. Like I handle a lot of the private money lending side of our business, and it's what I enjoy doing it. But I'm always like, oh, it's 10%, 12%, and then I got to go upstairs, and Christy's like, all right, great. So what are we working at here? 8, 9? I'm like 12, and then she's like, why are you doing 12? Like, so you got to answer. I got to answer to the boss, my wife upstairs about some of these things. But it's if you're like me, you want to help people, like you got a big heart, you want to create the win-win. I just had a lender who was one of my first lenders. And for the longest time, we did 12 and 2. We did 12%, 2 points. And then you guys, over the last 2 years, I haven't been working with her because I've been getting less and paying less. And I just had that conversation with her. She hit me up last week. Her name's Mona. And she always sends me these texts. She's like, hey, the Bank of Mo's about to go, or makes this funny rhyme or whatever, like saying that she's interested in putting her money to work. And I said, hey, look, like, here's the deal. Like, we're borrowing at 9 and 10 right now. And I want to work with you, but I just got to make sure that that's where you can be. And if not, remember from last week, hey, if you can't do that, we can find the deal that's 12 and 2, but it might take a little while. And for her, it'd been like 2 years since we used her. So for 2 years, she hasn't been making the double-digit rate of return, and she's lost out on tens of thousands of dollars in potential interest for being stuck on that number that she wanted, right? But she's not in the private money club. If she was in the private money club, she could go and find other people to lend to too, right? So that's important as well. Like, if you are in the private money club, like, you have options for different people that have different stuff going on, and I'm telling my lenders, hey, look, like, go join private money club. Like, if I can't put your money to work, like, go join the club. There's a lot of people in there looking to borrow and lend, whether they take me up on it or not. All right, another question here. Yeah, PMC, there we go. All right, cool. So guys, any other questions, let me know. Here's the homework that I got for this week. Number one, if you haven't done this yet and you're a borrower, continue explaining your buying criteria. And if you don't have numbers yet, just keep using the ones I keep using. The 150, 150, 225. Just use these, but practice explaining it. But if you are flipping or wholesaling or buying rental property, get your numbers figured out and practice explaining real quick and precise how you operate, right? And I think it's important to make sure that we put, if we were buying a house, how much money we need for the loan and how much the house is going to be worth when we're all done, because it's this equity in between those two numbers that should be attractive to the lender, in addition to the interest rate, if not more. Let's continue to build out the credibility worksheet or the spreadsheet. So if you have an agent, great. If you have a real estate attorney, great. Put them there, list them there. I had a great question. I don't know if you guys saw the video I shot, but Francis was asking about an attorney. Like, one of her attorneys asked what we look for in an attorney for what we're doing? And it was a great question. And we talked about, the Google ratings are good, reputation, give us something that we can brag about to other people about why our attorney, the person that's going to be drawing up the paperwork, is good. But on a higher level, and even more important, and this probably goes for each individual here, especially like your realtor, attorney, I would make sure that their customer service is high level. Like this week I had a closing with a real estate attorney, and he was a one-man show. He was a hot mess. Everything's disorganized. It was the closing was Friday. I just got the wire today, this afternoon. Like it was just absolute nightmare for me and for my lender. And I didn't pick this person because I wasn't the one buying, I was selling. So the buyer picked the attorney. And we were at the closing table and I was with the buyer. I was like, dude, you like this guy? This guy's like, where did you find this guy? And they're like, there was a couple, and they were so funny. They were like, oh my God, I know. But we moved here 10 years ago. We didn't know anybody. He has all of our information. So we just keep coming back to him. It's a nightmare. Right. I'm like, find someone else, and they're like, I know. But here's why we want the customer service to be so good. If I'm talking to a lender, let's say during our meeting, and I'm like, hey, everything good to go? Yep, for sure. Hey, if you have any questions, you can ask me or you can ask my attorney. And I would provide them with the information. Because I've had people pick up the phone and call and say, hey, do you know Noah Harris? Yep. You know his company, Revive Homes? Yep. Okay. Do you guys, the private mortgage stuff, like, is this like real? Like, oh yeah, we do it all the time. Yep. Yep. And they're going to verify everything for you. But if that person, and it's going to make them feel really good, but if that person picks up the phone, calls, and they don't get someone, or they don't get a call back, or it's gonna create concern in their mind. So it's really important when we talk about picking the team, like customer service, especially with that role, is super important, right? So we're gonna keep building that out, and then we're gonna practice explaining why people love private money. But the number one thing, the new thing that we're gonna practice is this right here. So I'll take a picture of this slide, post it in the Slack group. I'm also gonna make sure that I got the worksheet in PDF format for you, not JPEG, that we covered today. And I'll post that in the Slack group too. But let's practice explaining the 3 common scenarios. There's 3 common scenarios. Most people take a picture of it if you want. I'll post it in the group. Most people want to put as much money to work as possible to get these great rates. They'll lend the entire amount. Other people, for whatever reason, lend the purchase price. And then some people, maybe it's all they can do, will lend the amount of $50,000 for the repairs, all right, and take a second position. Where do you see yourself starting? And this, I'm telling you, it's really important to qualify people too, because there's been folks that my wife has coached in this, and they've called back. They're like, oh, Christy, I got a private money lender meeting. I'm so excited. There are these people that are at my church, and I think it's going to be great. And then they go and they have lunch. And then the people are like, they were excited, but they didn't know that like, it was like 50 grand, 100 grand, 150. They thought they could do like $10,000 or something like that. Right. So it's good to like verify. So not just to get to the point where like, hey, does this seem like something you want to do? And they're like, yeah, this sounds awesome. Let us know when you have a deal. And then you call them and they're like, well, we only have 10 grand. Is that enough? Like, take the time to explain to them the 3 options so that everyone's on the same page, right? All right, good stuff. Any other questions?
No, I have been looking on the Private Money Club and see a deal. It's one company, they have multiple deals on there, and it's about the same. Like they definitely have a criteria of house that they buy, and it looks like lower end, $35,000, $50,000. And then they put on there that they, their term is like 5 years, 12%. How does that work? Because that kind of stumps me with like just 50,000, you have that tied up in one deal for, you know, that period of time.
Yeah, well, I would ask first, I'd make sure that it was verify if it was first or second position. Right?
Mhm.
And then it's not, I think that you're going to see more and more. Again, this is all about your goals. What are your goals? Is your goal monthly cash flow? Like, here's what's cool. If you found a great person to lend to, and they're going to make you a monthly payment every month for the next 5 years, isn't that the name of the game? Right? That could be a really great person to work with. I think you're going to see more and more long-term options. You know, from as an investor that fixes and flips single family houses, I think we're leaning more towards rental properties every day. So like I think rents are crazy high right now. Used to be 3 years ago, you had to Airbnb something to have it make sense cash flow wise. You don't have to do that anymore because the rents are crazy. You don't even have to Airbnb anything, at least where we live. You could just pay rent and we're making great money. So I think you're going to see more options to buy rental for lending on rental properties. Now you could, it's all about the terms. So it might be a 5-year balloon note, but then it might be like amortized over 30 years or 15 years or 10 years. And so just find out like what the interest would be, how the loan would be structured, and then see if that hits your cash flow goal or not. So, and there's nothing wrong. I mean, I've got lots of lenders who lend on, I mean, we just paid one off that was 15 years. It was a private person, but that person every year for 15 years or every month for 15 years got an interest check, you know? So, but that might not be your goal. You might like the shorter term stuff, and that's fine too. But I just, you know, ask them, shoot them an email and be like, hey, can you tell me a little bit more about this? What this looks like, what the payment would be, how the loan's structured. And then if someone's going to be like, hey, we're going to do 12, what was it? 12%?
Yeah.
Do 12% interest.
And I think it was first lien position.
Yeah, could be good. Just, yeah, dig a little deeper. We're going to, on both calls, like you're going to get a lot of value out of you're probably getting a ton of value on the borrower side, learning that side of it. But on the lender side, we're going to start talking about different types of deals and the questions to ask for those different types of deals. Like if it's a rental property, you want to ask these 6 questions to help you figure out if it's a good deal or not. So we're going to start talking about that stuff too. Yes, ma'am. All right. Anything else, guys? I really liked, and if you want, I really liked the 30 minutes. So like today, guys, we hopped on 30 minutes early. I don't know if you can do it or not. If you can make it, cool. But I just opened the room up 30 minutes earlier and we were just talking, asking questions. So we're going to keep doing that. If you can hop on, great. If you have a deal you want to look at, we can do that. Whatever you want to do, we got 30 minutes, we can do it. Just network or talk. We could do breakout rooms and you guys get to know each other. I mean, there's all kinds of cool stuff we could do. But Wednesday, we're going to do the same thing. So class will start at 6, but I'll open the room up at 5:30 if anyone wants to hop in early and just network. All
So
right.
Noah, I wanted to share a win for the week for me.
All right.
That's okay.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to, build a team. So I actually had a meeting, a friend of mine, I mentioned what I do to them and they're like, well, I don't have any money to help. I mean, I do construction, but hey, I got some people that do construction. So I actually went and had a meeting with a possible contractor that wants to work with
Awesome. I
me.
love it.
So I thought that was a great win.
That's
So I
easy.
actually did a presentation, PowerPoint presentation, and have it all set up. And I listed my criteria of what how and what I want from the contractor. So I was excited.
You did the PowerPoint and everything for them?
Yep.
Awesome. That's so good. That's so great. And you're setting expectations from the get-go. And let me ask you a question. Did they appreciate that?
Yeah, they were pretty blown away that I
Yeah.
was that organized.
Yeah. You know, it's
Hey,
funny. I think contractors get a bad rap, but when you approach a contractor and it shows that you're organized like Cherie did, and that, you know, you're someone that can stay on track, stay organized, and you want to pay your contractors on time, and you have payment schedules, and you show them the game plan, they're probably like, gosh, this is a good thing. So
Yeah, he was even joking. He says, "You want to do my finances?" Because I have 30 years in the financial institution. I've been a controller of businesses, $650 billion companies. So I'm pretty good with the money.
nice. Wait, how long you been doing that?
30 years.
And what they're what, $50 billion companies? Is that what you said?
Yes, 650.
What have you learned from that experience?
Just you've got protocols that you have to follow, your regulations, on time payments, paying your bills on time, and just making sure things tie out.
For the past, so here's what I love about it. So for the past 30 years, I've worked with $50 billion companies. And what I've learned from that is the importance of having protocols, not just in their business, but in your real estate business. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah, that's pretty much what I told him.
Boom.
Yeah, he was like, wow.
Is that your credibility statement?
Yes, I actually typed that up. I did.
Hey-
I wrote that up and I was like, oh, I'll use that one. So that's the
Nice.
one I did.
Hey, Noah, this
Pretty
is
much
David.
word for word.
Beautiful.
Just,
I love it.
just a quick follow-up to that question. Sherry, it's a great point. And Noah, maybe this is a future context that we can incorporate into this discussion as well. And that is all around the construction and the contractors. Are they certified? Are they not following the rules? How do we know whether the rules are being followed? I think it's a great discussion topic.
That
Absolutely.
is because I actually even put in there that I want them licensed and bond or insured, and that I will give them a 1099. So I already have all that set up for requirements for myself, just to help keep, because that's the scariest part. And try to find people quickly, but I wanted to find someone, try to be reliable to do multiple projects with. So it's like, I want you licensed, insured, I'm going to see that. I'm going to show you, that I have a property and, you're going to see it and I'm going to pay you what's needed and making agreements. So I'm going to have another meeting on how they're going to get paid, how it will work. So now I just have to find the property and then find the cash. So.
Nice. Beautiful. Yeah. Lots of times that's so great. And it like, I love my contractors, but what happens sometimes, guys, you ever like have someone that you really like doing business with, and then a friend is like, hey, do you know anybody? And then you refer them to that friend, and then that friend's like, that person was awful. And I'm like, no, they're not. They're great. You probably didn't handle it right, or you messed it. You're the one that messed it up. Now you're messing it up for me, coming in here, mucking it all up. Lots of times we don't have, like, not everybody has asked those questions and lays out what they expect and how it's going to look. And it's really important. I think kudos, my wife Christy, like, that's her jam, like contractors and managing projects and things like that. So like the house that we're buying in North Carolina, and it's like a few hours away, she actually went there today and met the electrician, the plumber, the roofer, a GC, the real estate agent was there, and a couple other people that maybe septic, and they all met at the same time. And within like 2 or 3 hours, she had like she's got the quotes upstairs on the kitchen table and all this, and we haven't even closed on the property yet. But she's got the team in place, and I mean, I literally opened the folder. She's got the Google reviews in the folders and all this stuff. I'm like, wow, okay, cool. And it's exactly what Cherie's talking about, and setting the expectations, and those guys loved it. And if you're lending, it might be a good idea, David and Sherry, to ask, hey, who's doing the work on the project? Tell me a little bit about like your team, because obviously this is going to be a fix and flip type of scenario. And they should be able to provide a couple of names, if not just one general contractor, like the roofer and so on and so forth. And this stuff should be sorted out before you close. You know, so if someone says, hey, this is going to be a quick turnaround time of 4 months, 5 months, 6 months, quick turnaround time, quick fix and flip. It's not quick if the contractors aren't picked out and who's doing the work, because good people are booked. It's hard to find good workers that want to start, that can start next week. So we should be starting to look for our team 3 or 4 weeks in advance of when we need them, you know. And then there's a process of like, hey, the roof goes first, the, you know, the electrical, the plumbing, you know, the demo, the electrical, the plumbing, you know, there's the carpenter, the kitchen cabinets, like there's an order to it all. So as the rehabber should be planning that out and in communication with those people as well to get them on the schedule, you know. So it's good. I think it's nothing wrong with asking who's going to be doing the work on these projects. And lots of times you can verify if they're licensed online. We talk more about that when we get into the lending. I think lending, it's either next week or the week. I think it's the week after. I think the third week I'll actually give you different questions to ask for the different types of projects you're lending on. But 2 claps for Cherie. All right, great job. Great job. All right, anything else, guys? We good? All right, cool. Well, I'm gonna post that stuff on the Slack platform, and I may email this spreadsheet so just so everybody has it emailed to them, and that might make things a little easier. So, but you guys have a great night, and if you need anything at all, you know where to find me. All right. All right. Have a good one. All right. Take care, guys.